So I'm taking a slight deviation from my book-related videos to get into a timely yet also tangentially book-related topic. Fandom. Though I will say chapter 4 of my book is literally and precisely called Audience Participation and the Power of Community, which would be a nice subtitle for this video if it didn't already have the super long title it does. Now, I've already done a whole series on fandom in general on its own channel, and I've linked to that in the description and up above if you want to give that a watch. But I specifically want to talk today about the power of an audience and the role the audience plays in entertainment, especially as we have seen in 2019. 2019 was a big year for many franchises. We saw the end of the current MCU story, or something like that. I've only ever seen the Avengers. I don't know how this all works, sorry. How to Train Your Dragon? What? I cried like 3 times, shut up. Game of Thrones, stick a big pin in that, and Star Wars, or the Skywalker saga, you know what I mean. Do you guys also remember when Spider-Man got kicked out of the MCU for like 2 seconds and then was brought back? Or what about the time a studio spent millions of dollars to reanimate a fictional cartoon-like character to make it look less real? I see you, Sonic of Nightmares. Fandom has had a very vocal year, and has proven that when vocal enough, changes can happen. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. The most famous example is the short-lived cult show Firefly, which thanks to a small but loyal fan base, and partially Netflix, which is kind of funny considering what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, they were able to wrap up the canceled show with a feature film. And while nothing could take the place of a healthy 6-season run, Serenity was better than saying goodbye to the Browncoats for good. They did the impossible. Now, I've been watching TV for 8 or so years, more so shows that are on streaming services and have been completed for years, as opposed to shows that are airing weekly, but I did have my weekly favorites. Once Upon a Time was my Sunday night treat throughout high school and most of college, but that inevitably ended. I found I preferred shows that were complete as opposed to uncompleted. And this is not just because of the current trend of ending on cliffhangers and having to wait months for a resolution. There's also the uncertainty of renewal that hangs over the head of every show. I sometimes wonder if that was the last episode. Was it a good last episode? Did you seriously end on a cliffhanger if you don't even have a green light for another season? That just seems like bad storytelling. Leave a thread, not a chasm. I don't want to get betrayed like that. Hence, you'll find that many of the most popular shows of the past couple decades I've only seen once they've finished. And there are some shows that I really want to watch right now that I'm actively waiting to be finished before I start. That's just how I am. There was one recent exception to this, and that happened when the season I was watching I knew to be the final planned season. Game of Thrones. Now, I'm only opening this can of worms a teeny tiny bit in order to make a comparison for later. So this video isn't about Game of Thrones Season 8 or the show at all. It's about fandom. So for this season, I decided to dive a little deeper into the fandom. And by that, I mean I decided to comb through Twitter for a couple hours after the episodes aired. In summary, Season 8 of Game of Thrones on Twitter went something like this. Thanks, I hate it. There were complaints everywhere. There were so many theories about how the show could possibly be fixed in the short amount of time we had left. There were death threats and vitriol towards the showrunners. And of course there were memes. And the memes did make me laugh, but the rest just kind of made me sad. I, and millions of others, were looking forward to a logical and satisfactory conclusion to an epic, multifaceted, complex, character-driven story. We didn't get it. It sucks, but life goes on. It also sucks when the fandom is reduced to comforting each other instead of celebrating the thing that brought them together in the first place. And after the inevitable couple months of video essays explaining what exactly went wrong and elaborate rewrites shared online, most of the hype for Game of Thrones has died down. And in the wake of that, I didn't think I'd ever venture into Stan Twitter ever again. So I want you to imagine, and you may have to go back a couple years for this, you are watching your favorite show, or a favorite show, live as it airs, or soon after on a streaming service, and you know you're watching the season, but not series finale. It's a great episode to say the least, and you go to bed with a smile on your face. The next day you get up and go on Twitter to celebrate with the rest of the fandom, and not 12 hours after the episode finished airing, it's announced that it was cancelled. Let's talk about Anne with an E.
My name is Anne Shirley Cuthbert, and please be sure to spell Anne with an E.
So for those of you who don't know, Anne with an E is a Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, or CBC, and Netflix original show that is created by Northwood Entertainment. It is an adaptation of the book series Anne of Green Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery that shares the life of plucky, intelligent, red-haired orphan Anne Shirley after she's adopted by an elderly brother and sister. It's a bit different than other adaptations in that it really dives into the world of the story. It adds original characters and plots that are not even remotely in the books at all. Though many of the original characters have turned into fan favorites, and they are all literal rays of sunshine. At the same time, it expands the stories of the other main characters besides Anne, like Matthew, Marilla, Gilbert, and Diana. It also adds a lot more to the supporting characters, like Josie Pye, or characters who are barely in the books at all, like Jerry Baynard. Of course, some of the most iconic scenes from the books are in there, just adapted in a really fresh way. It's a way to look at 21st century topics and issues through a 19th century lens, all being portrayed realistically and respectfully. The writing, cinematography, music, and acting are all top-notch. The teenagers are played by real teenagers, which is such a refreshing change from many teenage shows nowadays. There is so much to love about the show, and even those who have read the books and have a vague idea of what's coming next really have no idea what to expect episode to episode. So I knew that season 3 wasn't coming until 2020 on Netflix, but was going to air in Canada first. After I watched the trailer provided by the CBC, I knew I wanted to watch it as it aired. It would be my new Sunday treat of getting through the week and preparing for the next. 10 weeks, 10 episodes, a nice way to get me through most of the semester. And I easily figured out how to watch it, which is kind of a gray area, but I'd still call it 95% legal since I did watch it on the CBC site and took in all those CBC advertisements. You're welcome, thanks for nothing. And so I watched it. And like with Game of Thrones, I decided to take a chance and go on the #AnneWithAne hashtag afterwards on Twitter. And I'm so glad that I did. It was pretty much the exact opposite experience of the Game of Thrones After Ep Twitter party, or whatever you want to call it. As many people would say, the vast majority of this fandom is so kind, wholesome, and supportive. We love the show, a show that embraces being unique and fights against bullying. It was such a great place to just be on the internet, and I would have missed out on so much if I had just waited for it to show up on Netflix. I would have missed out on the weekly predictions, the collective clowning, the frustration with character actions that, unlike with Game of Thrones, was mostly in character, and of course plot circumstances that were out of character's control but were still aggravating in the best way. I would have missed out on the theories like the he loves me not, or the odd even theory, though once you watch the season you'll pick up on that one pretty quickly. And then of course there was the pen theory, which, well, when's the last time you saw a fandom lose their collective minds over a pen emoji? The lead actress really liked messing with us. So it's Sunday, November 24th, 2019. We watch the final episode of season 3 and go to bed with smiles on our faces. The next morning, Netflix drops advertising for the season. Or should I say, the final season. I didn't realize something was wrong at first. When I went on Twitter, I found hashtag renewannewithane was trending #1 with a couple 100,000 tweets, but I thought that was just excitement from the previous night and the fandom trying to get a jumpstart on the renewal for season 4. I knew the fandom had to fight for season 3 and maybe even season 2, so why not for season 4? Then I realized it was actually cancelled.
Oh, hello. Are you still having the world's lousiest day? Oh, why, yes, thank you. I am.
It was a little fishy overall, but in retrospect, we could have seen it coming. There was an article that came out before the season aired about the CBC and Netflix possibly parting ways after season 3. Something about bringing Canadian television back to Canada, or Netflix used the 5-season budget for 3 seasons, or something like that. Oh boy, were they unprepared for the amount of fighting they would get from the fandom, which was heavily inspired by content from the show itself.
Are you ready to fight for what's right? Yeah! Let's make some noise! Yeah!
There's a little chaos at first, but very quickly, for a couple of days anyway, the fandom was out in full force. There was a new hashtag trending on Twitter every single day with trending parties at various times. One hashtag even trended while spelled incorrectly, which is kind of ironic if you know the importance of spelling on the show. An official renewannewithane Twitter account popped up and organized a lot of the chaos. New fan art embracing the spirit of season 3 was released daily. New studios were added to the list of mentions to get some attention. Hulu, Amazon, HBO, anyone you could think of. Petitions were signed. Emails and handwritten letters were sent. There was talk of creating a billboard for advertising. Side note, present day, since I wrote this a couple weeks ago, I'm pretty sure the billboard is almost a for sure thing. There was a lot of anger at Netflix, which was quickly redirected to the CBC when it seemed that Netflix wasn't the main culprit, but now I think we can safely say most of the backlash is at Netflix.
Then I can hold my anger in no longer. It's fishing or murder.
By Thanksgiving, the fandom was a little loopy. News articles were written all over the world, mostly positive, but there was one that implied that the Twitter storm was all bots. People joined Twitter literally just to participate in the fight, so of course they're not going to have much activity or followers. On the first Sunday, 1 week after the finale aired, people were tweeting spoilers for episode 11. There were some pretty funny ones in there, but also it's kind of an indication we were slowly losing our minds. But then there were some instances of bullying in the fandom. Every tweet the CBC sent out, #AWAE fans tried to somehow relate it back to saving the show. Even slightly inappropriate ones, like very serious news stories, and the CBC has stopped responding to tweets. I think they've muted our hashtags. And some people were giving up and losing hope.
My life is a perfect graveyard of buried hopes.
Meanwhile, most of the cast and the creator posted farewell messages, even those who were very supportive of the movement at first. It was clear they were not ready to let Anne go, yet they were suddenly silent. They probably aren't allowed to post anything anymore.
What's wrong?
Everything! Then conspiracies started popping up. Everyone was watching what the creator, Moira Walley-Beckett, the executive producer, Miranda DePensier, and Northwood Entertainment were doing online. Maybe there's something going on behind the scenes? There was an article a day or so after the cancellation where the creator, Moira, said she wouldn't mind making a feature film. Hey, it might be a bit like the Firefly Serenity situation. But the thing weighing on our collective minds was we knew she wanted 5 seasons. She had a story planned for 5 seasons. We thought we were getting 5 seasons. It seemed guaranteed we would get 5 seasons. She did not know this was the final season. It was literally a surprise to everyone. The cast and crew found out the same way the fandom did. One of the actors was in math class. I can't even imagine finding out you lost your job in the middle of school. So the tweets continue to pile up. As of now, we are inching closer and closer to 6 million on the renewannewithane main hashtag. More people are rewatching the show and sharing favorite scenes and quotes. People list the reasons why it should be renewed outside of the content of the show itself. It's one of the CBC's most popular shows. It's been nominated for and won many awards. Both seasons 1 and 2 were some of Netflix's most binged originals in the years they came out. More people are finding the show for the first time as a result of this worldwide hubbub it has created. People share what is so important about the show. The inclusivity and diversity, the messages, the hope. How it is so different from many other shows on right now. Why this might be the show the world needs right now. This audience is sending a message, and I think the world is listening. Nearly 2 weeks after the cancellation, both Moira and Miranda posted extremely similarly worded messages on Instagram, basically saying definitively there would be no renewal, no revival. Thank you. We love you, but it's over. Have you ever heard of the shows Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Lucifer? They were literally canceled with these exact same goodbye messages everywhere. It seemed there would be no way there'd be another season, but the fans didn't give up. These shows still live. And Nation, one of the names the fandom calls itself, is still going strong. There are still letters being written. There are still trending and boosting parties on Twitter. There are still fan creations being spread, sharing their love of the show. There's been an official calendar created with daily activities to boost the show. Very creative fans are doing Netflix's job for them. And by that, I mean they're creating promotional posters using some beautiful shots from Season 3 and making original trailers that they're posting all over social media. There's an unofficial, official, and promotional team within the fandom that's literally raising money and putting these fan-made promotional posters all over Instagram and Facebook. It's quite wonderful to see. And while Netflix has released the trailer, which I have linked in the description, come on, let's get the views up, let's at least beat the Season 2 trailer. Most fans can agree that the fan-made trailers were better. It seemed like this one was lazily spliced together after the fandom yelled at Netflix for maybe 2 weeks about not releasing a trailer. The original trailer they put on Twitter misspelled January. Shows how much time and care went into this trailer that was dropped out of nowhere when the To All the Boys I Loved Before sequel trailer had a literal countdown for days before its release. It seems like our best bet for a new home for the show is Disney Plus, which, well, if they give me both Anne and a Percy Jackson TV show, I might just have to sell my soul to the mouse. So is this the final season? As our Anne would say,
Remains to be seen.
there's another whole conspiracy that is just a huge marketing ploy. This would not be the first time a corporation got a lot of publicity out of doing something or not doing something. Outrage marketing is a thing. Well, in this case, the fans of the show are doing the marketing for Netflix. And there really will be a season 4. They just want to see season 3 completely smash records for views as soon as it comes out. At this point, I feel like that's pretty unlikely. Netflix isn't promoting this season like they do their other originals. They must not care about it. They're literally trying to bury it, which is actually what they did with the first season of Stranger Things, believe it or not. On the other hand, if Netflix is waiting to see how season 3 does in terms of views before going for a renewal, which is kind of dumb because they're canceling it before the season comes out, but whatever, I don't think they're gonna be disappointed. I've already got plans to spend the whole day watching the season on the big TV with the volume turned up as opposed to small and fuzzy on my laptop. There might be some other things going on behind the scenes as well. These could be more legal based and part of the reason of zero transparency and the constant mixed messages the fans are getting. There is the slight possibility of a lawsuit from the director of the 1980s Anne of Green Gables film series due to some slight similarities to his films. And while this hasn't popped up for a couple weeks and I'm starting to think was kind of a non-issue, I will say a lawsuit over creative similarities makes a little more sense than not reaching target demographics or not getting enough views when the current season isn't even available to most of the audience. 2 weeks after the finale aired, Moira responded to some comments on Instagram saying that it just came down to money, plain and simple. But compared to what other shows on Netflix cost to make, that can't be the source of the problem. Until season 3 comes out on Netflix, the fight isn't over. As soon as season 3 comes out on Netflix, the fight is just beginning. If you're already a fan of the show and haven't seen season 3 yet, get ready. As soon as you finish episode 10, it can safely go on the renewannewithane tags without being spoiled. You are never going to leave. This has been a fascinating journey following all of this, how a fandom can just rise up and organize themselves around a cause that they truly believe in. I've been interested in and following all of this not just as a fan of the show, but also as a fan of communication and pop culture. Social media has really changed what it means to be a member of a larger audience. And what is the purpose of entertainment, if not to satisfy and bring joy to an awaiting, eager audience? So here's my ask. Give Anne with an E a chance. Watch seasons 1 and 2 on Netflix right now, and then season 3 on January 3rd. You might find that a bright orphan girl with a big brain and a bigger heart is just what you need to start 2020 right. I'll be back soon with the next installment of Creating Creative Fulfillment. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time, and remember, embrace your creative side. And stream Anne with an E on Netflix on January 3rd. Got the Ruby Gillis pout going on. I have 23% left on my tablet. Let's see if I can do this. Woo! Here we go, 15-minute video, or something like that. It's long. It's really long. But I forgot I have this. I have a silver heart necklace. And if there was ever a time I would wear it, it would be now. Okay, my last couple of videos I've been literally glancing at a script, so I don't know how well this is gonna go. I might be able to do this. But then I can't use my hands. Music stand. Music stand. I just hacked my own videos. Look, I got my music stand. You can't see it. They did the impossible. And that made them mighty. Can you tell I'm a fan of Firefly? I can't believe I'm saying this. Stay on Twitter.